Welcome to the Embodiment Podcast. This show is for you if you see the body as more than a brain taxi. It's for people interested in coming home to the body as a holistic aspect of who we are and how we live. Episodes contain practical tips, exercises you can take away, and interviews with embodiment specialists from around the world. I'm your host, Mark Walsh. So on the show today, Gayatri Beegan. So she is a sacred sexuality practitioner known for Tantric Massage. She's helping a lot of people with sexuality, sensuality. This is something I'm very interested in, and I'm going to start having a few more Tantra type people on the show. And Claire comes highly recommended me, so welcome.
Thanks, Mark. Good to be here.
Did I say your name right?
It's Gayatri.
Gayatri. Okay,
Gayatri.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And where are you in the world today?
I'm sitting in my living room in North Somerset, which is a really, really beautiful part of the world. And I'm surrounded by nature and green and countryside.
Great. We're both kind of waking up on UK time in the morning. I'm in Brighton, the sun's shining. You may hear the seagulls out the window on a sort of cold winter's day. For those that don't know the West Country, I know a lot of our listeners are in Canada and Australia and Russia and America. It's sort of like where the hobbits live. It's green and rolling hills. Okay. And how are you today? You seem well.
Yeah, I'm really good. I'm an early riser, so I've been up for quite a while, pottering about, doing stuff, and I feel really here, ready for our call.
Great. Let's dive in. How did you get interested in the body, and particularly the kind of sacred sexuality side of things?
My interest in the body has pretty much always been in me. Even as a kid, I used to do massage with my sister. We taught ourselves from a book that our parents had, and we used to give one another back rubs all the time for relaxation, for pleasure. So it was just always in me, this interest. And then over the years, I trained in a lot of different practices. So at that time, it wasn't what I did for a living. I had a very corporate life at one point, actually, but I had a real fascination with the body. So, for example, I did a 4-year training in shiatsu just out of personal interest because I wanted to learn about energy medicine, basically, and how that worked, and all sorts of other holistic therapies. But at that time, I had this sense that something was a bit missing from what I was learning and what I was doing. And so a number of years back, when I actually connected with Tantra, and in particular Tantric body work, it was like the missing piece of a puzzle fell into place for me, because I realized that what had been missed out of all those other modalities was the integration of our sexual energy, and an acknowledgement that we're not just a human being in a physical body, but also sexual beings with erotic aliveness. And that by missing all of that out, we were in fact creating or reinforcing the kind of schism that we have in our society between our sexuality and our beingness.
Great.
So once that bit fell into place, it was like, okay, this is what I really need to be doing, and the journey's just gone on from there.
All right, great. So let's look at some terms. And so most people may have heard of Tantra, but they might not have an image what there is. You know, I guess you're referring to kind of sexual neo-Tantra, then there's kind of older practices. Like, what is Tantra? What does that mean?
Well, most people, if you mention the word Tantra, the only connection they have to it is sex, and usually in the form of sting. Okay, sting did it for 7 hours, 8 hours, and that's what Tantra is all about, right? Yeah. That is most people's connection with it. But really, it's much, much bigger subject than that, and it's really about a philosophy of being, which is moving towards an awakening in ourselves, but not one that's focused on, you know, getting to heaven, ascension, going up to God, but realizing that all of this, all of experience, all of life, everything that's manifest in the earth is part of the sacredness of being. So for this reason, Tantra embraces the body and acknowledges our sexual energy, which many other faith traditions ignore or deny in some way. And especially if people come out of kind of Judeo-Christian upbringing, we tend to have quite a shame-oriented relationship with our sexuality.
I'm not sure if that's fair on the Jews, to be fair. They fuck on the Sabbath. But I'd say more Christian Islamic, but
well, I said Judeo-Christian.
We had a fair few Jewish guests on, and we talked about that one. But there's definitely a body denying part to many Orthodox religions, isn't there? Including Buddhism, actually including Judaism too, definitely including Christianity and Islam. There's a body denying part. We talk about embodiment and disembodiment obviously a lot on this show, and it seems like the denial of sexuality is a part of that, right? Like you tell people, like, I woke up with a boner this morning. It was pretty obvious I'm, this sexual kind of being, it's like the first thing I did was kind of snuggle up to my wife, as that's how I became conscious this morning. Like what could be more part of my being? Yet people deny this, right? They deny that and by denying sexuality, they deny the body.
Yeah. And, we're living in a time when we have a really, really contradictory relationship to that. So it's like we still, for the most part, people aren't having healthy, natural, open conversations about their sexuality, their feelings, their desires, and so on. Yet at the same time, sex is absolutely everywhere out there, and it's used to seduce us in advertising, to catch our attention, to sell us many, many things. And so sexual energy is out there a lot, but it's been kind of manipulated in a way that the one place where we're not really supposed to feel sexual is actually in our own body.
That's an interesting contradiction, isn't it? On the one hand, the image of sex is everywhere, right? Like you say, media, every movie you ever see has some kind of love sequence in, even if it's just Disney kissing or something, there's always the image of it and the manipulation through it. But then simultaneously, there's still a lot of sex shame, a lot of, it's really taboo in the corporate world.
Yes.
And it's become very taboo. There's a lot of fear around it now, and in terms of like, okay, can I make a sexual advance here? It almost feels like kind of the sort of tantra work on boundaries has become necessary for everyone. Like almost like, wow, in the modern climate, this is actually really helpful rather than seeing it as something esoteric, right?
Totally.
It's still that like secret, how would I call this? Like a kind of hidden Victorianism. It's like there's a sort of hidden repression of sex that's still at the heart of everyone telling me they're really groovy with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes when I'm speaking about sexuality and, speaking about some of the patterns that people have, I'm saying things and I'm thinking, God, I sound like, I'm speaking about the Victorian era. Like, is this still really true for people? But it is. This sense of denial of oneself, or the shame about, actually, I feel something in my body and it feels good to me. We have a very suspicious relationship to pleasure in our society. Again, on one hand, we're kind of seeking fun and excitement, but pleasure that's really felt in our body and integrated into our being is kind of like, oh, that's a bit weird.
Because there's the sort of attitude of sort of sex as sport, isn't it? Like kind of like Tinder culture or like porn culture. Like sex is something you kind of have to do to sort of get off on, or it's almost like pneumatic to dispel I need to get laid, But there isn't really a celebration of the sort of connection there or the spirituality of that. It's just a very kind of cheapened version. Is that fair to say? You're the expert.
It can be. I mean, a lot of people have an idea that sex is something you do to someone else, rather than really feeling like what is here between us in this moment. Yeah. And often a desire to kind of, get to penetrative sex, for example, and kind of being an athletic, performance-based experience of it takes people away from the more subtle aspects of lovemaking and slowing things down and really feeling what's there. So what some people call elevator sex, it's like, okay, I meet you, we start to touch, we start to kiss, now we're on the elevator and we have to go, we have to get there. And it's not necessarily what people really want in themselves, but because we're kind of cut off from our body, we're not in touch with what we want until later, and we go, oh, actually that didn't really feel so good. And then again, shame comes up, or questions around things like consent, because we haven't been in touch with what did I really want in my body at this time, and did I empower myself to be able to receive that?
Yeah, I definitely want to go there as well. It's kind of the times, and I want to go there. Just a little bit more in terms of culture then. So there's this kind of body denying culture, and obviously something so key to us. It's a great way of sort of disembodying people, to add shame around that. And I really don't think we've got beyond that. I was teaching a workshop on attraction, embodied attraction. I brought a female colleague along. I said, can you, I won't say her name actually, but I said, can you come along, help us out? It's a men's course. It's just for men, but I want a woman there who I trust and, who's in her body. And she stood up and she said, I love cock. And I was just like, oh, and I was like, wow, I thought I was pretty cool with like empowered female sexuality. I'd never heard a woman say that before. And she just said it loud, and she looked around the room. Then she started saying what kind of cock she likes and how she likes cock and the kind of lovers she likes. And all these guys, and we thought we were like pretty cool personal growth crowd. Like most of us went red, And I thought, okay, so here we are thinking we're really liberated. And all it takes is a woman to say she likes one of the most obviously sexual things that, if your ancestors didn't like that, you probably wouldn't be here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like there's a pretty good evolutionary link to that. And of course other people don't, and that's fine, and they might like whatever, but it was like, well, how obvious a thing. And I was still like slightly taken aback by actually hearing a woman stand up and say it in a room full of people.
Yeah, exactly. And and it hits so many levels as well, like that she had the audacity to to say it out loud, and I'm proud, and really own that desire, because many women are kind of taught not to like it, not to want it. But of course, we're wired, many of us, if that's our sexual preference, for that desire, just as men are oriented to, they're heterosexual, to desire the pussy. But again, a man's not allowed to say, I love pussy and I would just want to adore it through my touch and, whatever. It's kind of like that immediately becomes suspect.
Yeah.
It's more true than pretending we don't really want it.
So on the one hand, there can be a devaluing of sex and taking away the kind of interpersonal, because it's the objectified body, right? If someone's just banging away at someone as an object, and then that's, pure expression of the objectified body, the disembodied, like, because I'm an object, you're an object, I'm just going to do this to you. And that could be violence, or it could just be really bad sex, It could just be really just like, yeah, like, for me, I know with lovers, if they don't do some kind of an embodied practice, there's almost like a plastic feel to sex. It's almost like kind of like bumping into an object, as opposed to being with a person who I can connect with, who's feeling, and because they're feeling themselves, they can feel me. So the whole thing becomes a dialogue, and it becomes much more interesting than two objects kind of using friction on each other,
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where, tantric massage actually as a practice can really help people come back into a place of that actually feeling and sensing in themselves. So in exactly what you describe, in order to feel something, people are kind of almost using the other person to be able to be in that experience. But tantric massage, because it's a first and foremost practice of receiving the touch and the experience, helps people to reconnect with the relationship of their own body, essentially, and come into that feeling and sensing place. So from this place, then we can share what's inside us with somebody else, rather than trying to take it from them in order to get something for ourselves.
So what's a tantric massage? This is something you're known for. What is that?
Yeah. So it's basically a form of massage which acknowledges, honors, and welcomes the being as in the fullness of all that they are. So not just a physical body, but also welcoming the emotions, welcoming them as an energy being, and an awareness that they're also a spiritual being and a sexual being. So this is all part of it. So many, let's call it conventional massages, people are draped in towels, and the genitals are completely overlooked. And if there's even a kind of sense like the person's really opening to pleasure, this kind of feels uncomfortable, right? So tantric massage creates a space where the being in their aliveness, which might include arousal, is welcomed and acknowledged. So there's a place of a possibility, rather, of full body massage. So this might include touch to the genitals as well. But the intention in that is not about stimulation and excitement towards orgasm, for example. Like, it's not hand job, but rather bringing a sensitivity and a celebration of this part of the being, and bringing it into a sense of connection and integration with the whole body.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about orgasm, because Tantra has almost like a reputation as being a bit down on orgasm, you know, like Sting going for 7 hours, or you saying there, like, hey, it's not about hand job to orgasm, you know, like what is an orgasm? What's the relationship? Because most people, like, synonymous sex is kind of like who can get to orgasm quickest kind of thing, right?
Sure. So I guess the first thing to say is that we tend to associate orgasm with climax, right? So, and particularly for male-bodied people, that means ejaculation. And actually, climax and orgasm are two different experiences that tend to happen simultaneously. Yeah? And with Tantra, or Tantric Massage, one of the things that we do is start to create a space between those two things, so that we're not governed by a desire for climax, which is, you know, it's a bit like blowing up a balloon. Balloon gets bigger, pops, and then balloon is finished. Yeah. Rather, we play with the energy and allow it to rise and fall and ebb and flow. So there's a space of expanding into more pleasure and experience. So, I mean, for me, it's not that climax is bad and orgasmic state is good, or we have to do this or we have to do that. You know, as soon as we're putting some kind of should on something, we're putting a limitation around it, and that is not helpful to anybody. Yeah. But what's interesting is to move away from habitual experience into opening into a new potential.
Yeah.
So most people have a very quick and easy route to climax. They have a way that they do it, which basically gets them from, you know, A to B in as short a time as possible, right?
Another job, another chore ticked off the list.
Yeah, or you know, or just a release, you know, like, I'm really stressed, I can't sleep, and, you know, I take something from my own body just to relax me, and job done. Yeah. And again, there's nothing wrong with that in moments if you're really aware that this is what you're doing. But the possibility in Tantric Massage is moving into other potentials of being with that energy. And what people often find as they start to explore the unfamiliar routes is that it opens the being up into something new. And they usually come with quite wide-eyed wonder from that and say, oh, wow, I didn't know that was possible. You know? So it's like when we've developed the shortest route from A to B, we miss all the scenery that's around. So a Tantric Massage creates that space of basically taking other routes. Yeah.
Okay. Part of me finds that really interesting and intriguing. And I've certainly had experiences kind of, you know, at Tantra type events, kind of go, oh, wow, that's actually really interesting to leave that aside. And, you know, another part of me just goes, oh, that sounds annoying. You know, like, as an ordinary guy, I'm just like, yeah, I can't be asked with that. So it's kind of like two responses I notice to that.
Yeah, and I think the important thing is for people to have a sense of choice around what they're doing as well, you know. And this is one of the things is often we haven't actually got much choice because we just think this is the way that you do it. And when we learn other possibilities, then it gives us more choice in what we do in that moment. And I think once we've felt that within ourselves, we can't unlearn that awareness. You know, it's there in us. And then if you make the choice, like, yeah, I want a quickie, great. That you're doing that out of a place of this is really what I want.
Sure. Also okay. Yeah. And yeah, I as a man, I've definitely enjoyed getting a bit older and kind of like the orgasm being kind of like a slower process and being able to have sex without orgasm. And, you know, that was just not a possibility for me at 18 years old. you know?
Yeah,
And at
exactly.
38, it's like it kind of, there's some of the pressure's taken off, you know? And it's certainly on women as well. There's that pressure of like, you've got to come, or did you make her come? That's the
Yes.
this performance
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing. And to take the pressure off that, it seems to be
yeah,
kind of healthier. And that's
yeah,
a limited experience anyway.
yeah. Yeah, and just to speak about men and this kind of thing about erection and ejaculation as well, it's really interesting because we so value youth and the energy of like hard, fast, hot sex that many men, as they're getting older, they're so disappointed in their body, you know. It's like, oh, it's not performing as it should, I can't get an erection like I used to, it takes me much longer to come. And it's like, actually, this is perfect for exploring other aspects of our sexuality, but we totally miss it because we're just fixated on the hot, hard, fast model. And so actually many men, as they get older and that like real biological urge is falling away, this is a perfect time to explore other kinds of lovemaking, other connections with self, and just actually starting to celebrate what that different relationship with self can be, rather than feeling like the body's let you down and you might as well just give up now.
There's also, we have this celebration of youth, don't we? That like all the sort of supposedly sexy people in media are very young, particularly for women. Though generally for men, they're not always, you know, because the whole kind of power is sexy thing. But then there's, you know, like if you were going to go to a car mechanic, you would want one with experience. And like, there's a set of skills there, isn't there? Which you don't have to be kind of like hardcore tantra ninja like you, but there's certainly like a set of skills that develop for men and for women, right? And I imagine for gay men and women too. So it's like, surely that's something that develops over a life, and surely that's just something that you enjoy more, but get more skilled in. And you know, I'm much better able to kind of feel a partner now. You know, it just feels like we don't age. There isn't a culture of celebrating the graceful aging of sexuality.
Absolutely, and the maturation of it, basically, that's there, like a wine that improves with age. You know, this could be the sense that we have, but a lot at the moment people are missing that. But thankfully, as more people are coming through, who are coming into these practices, I think, you know, certainly a lot of people I know who are in their 50s and 60s are really rewriting age, because by being really in touch with their body and the kind of practices, they're so vibrant, they're so alive, they're not aging. And actually this kind of makes people go, oh, what's going on there? You know, I want some of that.
And let's talk about boundaries some more then, because this is kind of a hot topic. This won't go out to look, you know, maybe the kind of controversy is blown over by the time this podcast actually goes out, but it's a huge thing right now, isn't it? And my limited experience of tantra is there's a lot of stuff on like yes and no, like yes, no, maybe games, and like what are you a yes to, what are you a no to, being able to ask for what you want and say no to what you don't want. Right, being able to listen to someone else's no and tune in for what they do want. Like there's different skill sets here, right? And it seems to me like that. And tell me if my limited experience was not right, but it seems like that's absolutely key to tantra work, is this work on boundaries and asking and receiving in yes and no.
Sure. So I must say this is not kind of my kind of main area of work. Actually, I kind of expect people to have done some of this stuff before they come to me. But what I find really, really valuable is people's capacity to say no to things. So what's really interesting is because in our society, we tend to teach people from a very early age that their consent doesn't really mean much.
Yep.
So to give an example, I have little nephews and they're 4 years old, they're twins, right? And I will go over to their house, for example, and my sister will say, oh, give your auntie a hug. And because they're really in touch with their bodies and really good at their boundaries, they just go, no, you know. And then some well-meaning adult will say, oh, hug your auntie, give her a kiss, don't hurt her feelings. And it's like, whoa, stop. this is madness.
Yeah.
Right?
So we pick children up when they don't want to be picked up. We tell them what to do. We make them sit still in school. So I mean, their entire education is one of being like told that their opinion doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
In the
exactly. Your
workplace,
experience is important, and especially in regards to taking care of someone else's feelings.
Yeah.
I can't say what I really want because it might hurt you.
Yeah.
Well, how much does that hurt me?
Yeah.
You know, so for me, like when we come into the body through massage, one of the things that's really important is encouraging and inviting the receiver to speak up for what they want in the moment. So the receiver doesn't just become kind of passively zoned out, but they are actively engaged with the process of the massage. And they do that through active breathing, through connecting in the eyes, and through communicating moment to moment what they want. And so this is a way that we can start to repattern our own needs, our own desires, and to have them met by another in a really unconditional way, without any sense of agenda or any sense of, I want something from you. Like, I'm doing this to you and now you need to do something to me.
Yeah.
It can be quite a pure experience of receiving, where the person actually gets the space to feel themselves and for what they want in that moment to be really honoured.
Yeah. We had a person on talking about food, Audrey, and she was sort of, and her sister Sophie, sort of saying that with the food, it's the same things like, what do I actually really want right now? And most people are disconnected from that, you know? And it's such a simple embodied thing to be, what do I want? And people aren't used to people that can make requests either. Like, even when I go for like a regular massage, I'm like, hey, can you do a little bit of work on my feet? And I've got a thing here. And, I'll spend like 2 to 5 minutes before I get massage just telling them what I want. And you can see the massage person going, you know, they're just not used to it. They might used to be like hard or soft or, you know, something like that. And I'm being quite specific because I love my body and I know what I want. And, and I just say, look, I'm paying for this. And it's, I can just say, I'm not asking for anything, unethical or unreasonable. And it's, they're often surprised, like, oh my God, I'm not used to this.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a practice, also to be able to ask for that in a way that feels a loving request rather than having a charge around it or a demand or, just to be comfortable in oneself, to be able to say, this is what I want. And for the one who's in the giving role, the active role, to be able to hear that, to meet that, and also to give it from a place where they actually full-heartedly can. I mean, maybe you want a kind of pressure, for example, that I just cannot offer because it's not, where I'm at. But to be able to comfortably say that and to find a place, like, for me, it's about where can we really meet in this moment with one another in the fullness that we are, rather than the projection of, well, you said this, so now I need that. And, we're kind of both trying to second guess one another, for example, to make something happen, instead when we can drop that and kind of be in just, what can I full-heartedly give? What can I really full-heartedly receive?
Yeah, because obviously the worst situation would be, I'm doing something I don't want because I think you want it and you don't want it.
Yeah. I mean, that happens a lot, right?
Situation to be in. But I mean, a lot of sex is kind of a guessing game. And, like, it is, I mean, do kind of people that are more into Tantra kind of always do this verbally, like, hey, I'd like this? Because for me, part of sexuality is like the non-verbal kind of embodied dance of that, right?
Sure. And I think there's a place for both. And what can be helpful is sometimes even kind of making a bit of separation, like, okay, in this experience, we're really going to explore together, and I want you to tell me as much as you can about your body and your experience this time, so that we can discover together, basically. Yeah. And then there's other times when we want to let go of any sense of really controlling what's happening or guiding it, and just purely drop into experience. Yeah. So I think there's absolutely place for both. But what I find is the more comfortable, the more capacity we have to communicate, the more ease we're able to do that with, and then kind of let things go, it's when we're stuck in our head going, oh my God, I really don't like what they're doing, and I wish they would do it a lot harder.
Yeah.
Then you're not really there, right?
Yeah, right. And there is a real big non-attachment process in this, because this is one of the things that I continuously, when I'm, in sexual situations, realize is like, first is the vulnerability of asking for what you want.
Yeah.
And then there's being non-attached to that, because I don't want to be like, give it to me. It's like, ugh. Because as soon as that energy's in there, I mean, A, it's not nice. It's not ethical or pleasant. And B, you generally don't get what you want anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's like this kind of like this, that, and that the non-attachment, I don't know a woman's experience, particularly perhaps as a guy, is like, oh, I really want this. And it's completely your right to say no. So it's like, being able to simultaneously hold both of those. And there's this like, even, someone that's done meditation as a Buddhist, is a real non-attachment process to the whole sexual experience.
Yeah, exactly. And that is part of the practice of it. That's when, sexuality is not just what we do in the bedroom, but it is, it's an entire life practice as well. So we tend to, kind of a bit of a separation, like here, for many people, here's my life, here's my spiritual practice, and over there behind the door is what I do in sex. But actually, that's one of the most potent places where we can experience all of this, because so much comes up for us, particularly when desire is activated, right?
And the insecurity as well, right? Like, oh, my wife hasn't wanted sex in a few days. Like, oh my God, like, does she not love me anymore? Just like, am I ugly? Is it because I'm fat? Like kind of insecurity that can come up in this process. Or the fear of asking. Like, I know so many guys who are just terrified to ask a girl out on a date. I'm like, just ask her. She says no, that's okay.
Yeah.
At least it's a no. Like better to know it's a no than sitting there and it might be a yes or a no.
Yeah. And the thing is, actually, just speaking about men and women in this kind of example, we do put a lot of pressure on one another at quite a subtle level about what we want and expect from sexuality. So I don't know how many women don't really realize what an attachment they have to a man's erection, for example, or to his ejaculation, like as a validation of I'm a sexual being, I'm desirable, I made him come. And this comes out in quite a subtle way often. So, and then many men, they are having problems with ejaculation, premature ejaculation, getting erection and stuff. And there's a lot of this subtle energetic stuff that's going on underneath that, again, is very unspoken about, because we just don't really have the awareness.
And what about kind of in the current climate? There seems to be a kind of, I know you sent me some potential questions before the interview, and one of them here is about the potential blame and condemnation of male sexuality. Sort of, it's swinging kind of on the one hand from, a very healthy swing towards respecting women more, and it's respecting women's boundaries, and then it's almost going into like any active male sexuality is bad.
Yeah, and this can be really, really challenging, because basically it's reinforcing an idea that male sexuality is something that needs to be controlled. And I think this is an idea that many men grow up with, that as they become adolescent and they wake up in their sexual energy, it's like the cock has a mind of its own. And it's like there's some wild animal in your pants that you need to appease or control or deny. So many men right from the start come into a really ambivalent relationship with their own body. And because men aren't really encouraged to be in touch with the wider aspects of their body, or even to receive much touch in our society, so women are still brought up to have much more physical contact.
Yeah, men are touch starved, aren't they? And they're affection starved, they're compliment starved. Like, most guys are coming to a sexual encounter with a woman like completely begging, because like the women are getting all the touch and the affection and the appreciation and the compliments from each other.
Yeah.
And it's like the guys aren't getting that to each other. And it forces us into this situation where we're like, the only person in the world I can get that from is this one person. And
Exactly.
it's hell of a pressure to put on both people.
Yeah. And so touch is really sexualized in our society. You know, we've moved away from just that natural contact and connection, which you see in other cultures, you know, where people they massage one another in the family, where it's massage, head massage, all of this. We don't have that. And so touch has become very sexualized. And then especially for men, where it might be the only contact they ever get with another human being is when they're having sex.
Yeah.
So of course, you know, we have a natural desire to be in contact with one another. It's like it's one of our human needs. Touch. But if the only way that you think you can get it is by sex, then that's going to bring a particular quality to your engagements with other people that's totally driven by that impulse. Yeah.
And it's quite different coming to it. Like I've been on dates where I've been sort of beforehand, like really had been on workshop or with my embodiment friends or a contact improv workshop, and I've been really well touched and we had lots of cuddles and affection. And then I'm on a date and I'm just kind of like, yeah, this would be nice, but I'm far less attached to it. Do you know what I mean? There's a real freedom within that. In that experience. And you know, guys, you'll see them hit each other to try and get that touch. They're, you know, often just touch starve, but it seems to be getting better. Like it does seem like young guys are like my dad's generation. I remember once my dad, before he died, my dad couldn't touch his feet. He couldn't bend over to touch his own feet. So his feet were really dirty, you know, and I said, Dad, let me wash your feet, you know. And so I started washing his feet, and then like he's living on his own. He split up from my mum. And I said, look, I'm just going to, you know, if you don't mind, I'll give you a bit of a foot massage. It seems like your feet are in pretty bad shape. And he was sort of like, I'm not sure, you know, like a man touching his feet. And obviously there's nothing sexual in it. But for him, it was, and then he's kind of groaning in pleasure just because he hasn't had anyone touch his feet in months, you know? He hasn't touched, because he hasn't been able to touch his own feet. And it was just like, wow, that's really sad that, you know, a man can be living in that world.
Yeah. And this is one of the reasons actually, you know, the tantric massage has become really popular at this time. And the vast majority of clients are men seeking touch from female practitioners. And, you know, in part because there is something seen as fairly acceptable for a man to engage with a service which has, you know, a kind of sexual connection in that sense, you know, because it's there's a time-honoured tradition of men paying for pleasure. So it's seen as something kind of still relatively manly. I think about going for that kind of thing over other forms of massage. But often what I find is that people really, it's like, I want to be touched. I want to be held. I want to be acknowledged as a man and to be received as a sexual being, because the pressure of holding it all inside and kind of being denied it, you know, is just too much.
Yeah. So I get modern culture can be a bit touch starved. You know, I was in a corporate job the other day and they've been pretty open-minded to doing mindfulness. And I thought, oh, these guys are pretty groovy, you know? So at the end of the session, I said, okay, let's do a little bit of massage. And people like physically jumped, you know? So I was like, okay, bad idea. Sorry. You know? And it was really like obvious to me that was a complete no-no just by the way they stopped breathing immediately.
Yes.
We're still living in a touch-phobic society. But then I also see it go the other way. Like Tantra has kind of a bad reputation in many circles. Like for a long time, I was like, okay, Tantra is just women who want attention and like lame hippie guys who can't get laid any other way. And like I had some bad experiences with different practitioners, and then I really had to reach out to people I trust to find good people for this podcast. And like, you know, Adam recommended you, and I was like, okay, I trust this guy's recommendation. I had a few other people I got recommended to me, and I went to their workshop. So I've kind of got some faith in it now. But there was a time when I was quite skeptical about it, and I'd be at festivals, and there'd always be like some creepy guy, eye gaze, like with penetrative eye contact and long hair, who was just basically just trying to get laid with a bunch of hippie girls. And sometimes they were the teachers, you know, like
I thought you were going to say that.
And sometimes there were just some guy, and he'd be like, yeah, I'm not really, I just want to connect. I'm not interested in sex. And it's like, it's blatantly obvious. It's like, you're trying to fuck her. I've seen that game a million times, So I hope this isn't too challenging to you, because I'm definitely not putting you in this category. You wouldn't be on the show if I thought you were.
Yeah.
But there is definitely a sort of sleazy side to it, or a less boundary side. Maybe say a little bit about that. Okay, here's a good question. How do you differentiate? So let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, hey, yeah, I want to explore that, This is where me and my wife are at. We're like, hey, we want to explore more of this. Let's find some workshops, but we don't want to be part of that. Speak to that.
Yeah, it's a great question. And, never has a word been so misused than Tantra, I think. Yeah. And, sometimes I feel a bit ambivalent in the relationship with it all myself. I think, okay, so to give advice for somebody who's starting to explore this and wondering where to go is basically to kind of go about it just as you're doing, and check in with yourself, both from the place of the head, right? So, do your research, ask around, explore what's there. Use the good head stuff to start finding out what is there. And then go along and have some experiences. A lot of teachers will offer, kind of 1 day or 1 weekend introduction to bigger courses. Go to festivals like our good friend Adam is doing, where you can taste lots of different things. And when you're doing that, really in that space, check in with yourself. It's like, how does this make me feel?
Yeah.
Time? Like, what am I really feeling in my body, in my being? And for me, one of the key qualities of Tantra is honoring. So really honoring the being in where they are at. So if in your experience you feel like, I was honored in my choices, I was honored in my sovereign being, I was honored in this connection, and this is what I sense in the space, then that feels to me like a good place to go. If you come out feeling a bit cheapened and grubby from it.
I had that feeling just looking at someone's website the other day, but I looked at this website and this guy was highly recommended to me. So I'm doing the head research and who do I trust, getting recommendations. And I looked at the website, there's a little video of this guy, and he was like a worm, and my whole body, my skin just crawled. I couldn't even watch the end of the video.
Yeah.
A worm-like creature, and I just thought I would not trust this person in a room with me and my wife.
And that's it. And actually, people don't trust in that experience themselves, because they're like, oh, but this person is multi-orgasmic now after working with this one, and oh, this person's done, and we kind of let ourselves be seduced by that part of it through a kind of quite mind-oriented desire. I want this, but our body's going, nah, this doesn't feel right.
Because there can be a spiritual hijacking as well. Sorry, a kind of consumer hijacking of almost like this spiritual materialism of like, I'm going to have the most orgasms and I'm going to be the best lover.
Yeah.
And it can become almost like this kind of competitive and very statusy, like kind of status orientating. So yeah, I'm seeing some of that. And also just like a denial of some of the more base aspects of sex as well. Like there's a sort of spirit, like this kind of what's the word? Trying to not really including and transcending, just sort of being like, no, it's all spiritual, it's all up here, and sometimes it's not all up there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I do see a shift in the Tantra world where people are coming into more awareness of, not trying to just push through things or ignore things or bypass essentially what's really been felt and going on in the body, with some kind of ideal of how it should look and be in that moment. And we're actually starting to go, do you know what? We need to be with the basics of this, because if we haven't developed the sensitivity in our body to really be in the basics, particularly around touch, particularly around feeling ourselves, then all the other stuff, it's just disassociation, basically. We're kind of out of our body into the experience. But then we need to be able to integrate that. And part of Tantra is the dance between consciousness and energy. So just being out there, having, big orgasm experiences and everything else, that's only one part of the dance. And the consciousness that we bring to it, which really brings that experience home in our being, has to be in the equation as well. And so to actually develop that, we often need to go really step by step in the beginning, because in fact, to hold awareness in oneself whilst having experience, it takes quite a bit of practice, actually.
Yeah. Those basic skills are actually the most profound ones, aren't they? As you say, like being present to yourself, present to others, being able to ask for what you want, being able to say no. You know, those are the kind of the basic skills. I know very few people who are good at saying no or asking for what they want.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And it's like that. I don't think there's much in the current debate on the skill of saying no. I think it's all being put on the other side of things, isn't it? Which of course is important, and of course, you know, abuse is abuse, and you know, assault is assault. And there's also this other set of skills, isn't there, of being able to be clear about what you don't want. And I think I've noticed this in female students in a non-sexual context, like my business students. They're not very good. And I say that without blame. They haven't been taught. They seem to be constantly wanting to please people and make others happy. And because of that, they don't, go after what they want, but they also just don't say no to what they don't want. And that's dangerous for everyone. You know what I mean? Like, that makes no one happy. Maybe speak to some of that, you know, particularly from a gendered point of view. I meet guys like that, but if I'm honest, I meet way more women like that. If I'm doing no posture in EYP, so embodied yoga principles, we have a posture around no.
Okay.
People how to get a better no and feel that in their bodies through this kind of archetypal posture. It's way more women that have a problem with that than men.
Yeah, sure. And I think really I can speak to the part about pleasing. Because many women have been brought up with the idea that they're to kind of serve other people, you know, so whether that's in household with the mother, you know, doing all the housework and serving the meals and taking care of everybody and kind of putting herself behind the family and all of that kind of stuff. Like, this is one of the role models that many people grow up with, that we sense that my personal needs are less important than everybody else, right? And one of the challenges for many women is that we're still not really encouraged to connect with our own bodies. So, you know, masturbation, for example, is kind of taken for granted that all men masturbate. They must do, you know, they have to. It's the law. That's a man. But for women, it's still this kind of furtive activity.
It's a really interesting thing to say to a group of people who here masturbates. All the dudes are just like, of course. You know, or they might say, well, not for ages because my wife saw it or whatever, but normally I would, you know. And you ask the women, and like even quite kind of evolved, conscious, you know, in air quotes, women might be like, I don't really want to answer that, or but if you just said to them, you know, who I don't know, any other biological process, who sleeps, who eats, then, you know,
exactly. So because there's this, and you know, it's also treated a bit less than, it's like only if you can't get it any other way, or somebody's not giving you that experience. But what happens then when women haven't really connected with their own body and their own pleasure, or, you know, it's reaching for the vibrator where you go not to orgasm in about 10 seconds. It's like, and there's nothing wrong with that also.
It's just like, as a man, I say it's hard to compete with the Vibro 10,000 as well.
Well, exactly. This is really tough. You know, how can the touch of somebody compete with that sort of intensity? So women haven't, for the most part, really connected with what gives them pleasure. And if we have a sense of what gives us pleasure, then we're more easily in a place where we can judge what feels good for us and what doesn't. And this is where our yes and no comes. So most women have been still taught, like, their yes and no is about protecting self, right? You know, I certainly grew up in a generation where I was still being told I needed to be a virgin until I got married, you know, and I was like, I don't want to get married, you know, and it was like, total shock. You know, so there's this no of one must protect oneself, hold our sexuality to ourselves, or there's a yes that comes out of desire, that comes out of a longing to connect, but will basically accept anything that's going on just to have that, rather than being really tuned into, this is what creates good feeling in my body at this time. So if the whole consent discussion actually, you know, kind of moved into a place of really understanding pleasure, it would totally shift how we're relating to it, because it's not just like, it's not as simple as yes and no, and it's not even about, the being before us, like, yes, I want you, no, I don't. It's like, in this moment, what feels good to me is this, and what doesn't feel good to me, I say no to. That's, I do not want.
Great. And maybe let's offer some things to people out there that they can, play with, that kind of listening to this. Like at the Togetherness Festival that Adam, who we had on the show, was running, there was a real simple exercise. I want to share this because it also encourages people that you don't have to be doing mega kind of sexy massages or whatever. Like, we did an exercise just using the forearm, and you're with a partner, and it was like, okay, asking for exactly what you want. And like, you could be quite specific. I want this kind of touch, or I want you to brush your hair on it, or I want this on it. And, and people were doing things, it was in a public place, fully clothed. It was literally just the forearm. And I thought that was a great, like, little way in to be like, what do you don't want? What do you think the other person wants? And then you'd like make an offer, and they'd be like, yeah, or no. And I just thought that was so simple. I was doing it with a partner. Actually, it's a young lady who listened to this podcast. If you're out there, I won't say your name, but if you're out there, shout out to the young lady who listened to this podcast and touched my forearm in a very pleasant way. Thank you very much. So I just thought that was a lovely exercise, because it felt kind of clear and boundaried, and it felt kind of like safe, and it wasn't a big deal, and yet still profound. So if you've got any other little kind of cute ones like that people can take away and play with, that might be a nice gift.
Yeah, sure. So the first thing that springs to mind actually is a really beautiful exercise from the work of Betty Martin. And she talks about the wheel of consent. And there's a beautiful game called the 3-minute game. And 3 minutes is basically an egg timer. So you take turns to ask the person for the next 3 minutes, how would you like to be touched? How would you like to be touched? And basically, for that 3 minutes, to the best of your ability, you give them what they've asked for. Yeah. And 3 minutes is kind of long enough to sink into an experience and get something from it, but not so long that if it really wasn't quite right for you, you would feel like your life was wasted by 3 minutes in that experience. And I do play this quite often with clients to start getting them into a kind of understanding of their own body, because very often when you ask somebody, first of all, how would you like to be touched? They're like, I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't know.
I've never
had quite sad experiences with that. Like, there's a sadness here for me. Like, I've had some younger lovers, like 21 or whatever, and I've gone, they just don't know what they want.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh God, like, what do I do with that?
Yeah. So this is great for starting to make a way in for that. So if someone's in that I don't know place, the first thing I guide them to do is basically just close their eyes and take some nice deep breaths. So breathing like in through the nose and out through the mouth. And after you take a few breaths, like, let that scan into your body and just notice a part of your body that might like some contact, and a way that it would like to be. And, is it strong holding? Is it soft stroking? And actually, by doing it, once you start getting into the practice of it, suddenly people do find that things start popping up in them.
Yeah.
It's quite important that in the beginning, this is non-sexual touch. Yeah. Because otherwise we tend to go to our default.
Yeah, I'll have a blowjob.
This is what I know.
Can I have a blowjob? It's a bit too easy. So that, like, the forearm thing for me really worked, because it was a way of tuning into some of the subtle layers of it.
Yeah,
exactly. Reduce some of the sort of like social thing of like, my wife couldn't come to the workshop that weekend. She was working. It was like, who is this person? Yeah. Okay, this still feels cool,
Yeah, exactly. So, it creates a nice container around the experience, and boundaries just held within the time and the negotiation between one another. So one person might say, for example, well, I want you to walk all over my back. You're like, okay, I don't feel like I could actually do that. But how about a walk with my hands on your back? Would that meet what you want in this moment? Yeah, that would feel good. Okay. And then we do it. And it makes such a difference when you know that actually what you're giving is what the other person wants. and that what you requested is being met by that person just within that time. So it's a really, really helpful exercise.
Nice, good. I remember years ago I was out in California. It was my first exposure to kind of sex therapists or tantra people. I was just on this course, and there was all these kind of groovy people there. And I went to lunch with them. And I brought my notepad, and I was like, "What are you like?" I'm like, young man. I'm like, I want to be the Uber lover, and I'm like, "What are your best secrets?" And they all just said, "Oh, ask for what you want." I was like, "Oh, I thought they were going to teach me some like mad cunnilingus fucking ninja skills, And it's like they just said, "Oh, you just need to ask what you want," And then I tried that with my girlfriend at the time, Solimar, beautiful Solimar, if you're out there, gorgeous lady, hello. And I just sort of said, "Look, can I have this?" And it was something quite simple, and she was like, "Yeah, cool." And my sex life just got better immediately. And then the really interesting thing was at one point I said, "Hey, can I have this?" And she said no. And instead of feeling, she said, "Actually, I'm not really into that." And instead of feeling like hurt, I actually felt closer to her.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, it was not just that my sex life got more fun. It was also that we got closer through that process of like vulnerability and honesty with each other.
Yeah. Absolutely. And in fact, just even hearing somebody's no, if you're really able to receive that, you can trust them more, right? It's like, okay, I know that you're really capable of saying what is right for you. And if we're able to, kind of drop any, kind of ego sense around that, then we can just go, oh, wow, now I can come closer to you because this is even more safe and secure. I can really trust you as a being.
Personally, for me, it's a domain which I see has so much potential and is so challenging in terms of like, how bad it feels to fuck up and make mistakes. I've made mistakes around stuff, and people have afterwards said, actually, I didn't really want to do that, but I didn't want to say it. I didn't pick up on that. And I'm like, shit, I feel awful,
Yeah.
And then all the vulnerability of asking someone out or going for the kiss and getting the cheek. And there's all this like incredible like wanting and arousal and simultaneously having to work with non-attachment. Like it's a hell of a practice. I think only money comes close. Like money, which also has all this shame and all this guilt, and people won't tell you their bank balances, even less than they'll tell you whether they last masturbated. That's like the one thing more shameful than sex in our society. But it feels like as a tantra, like as a transformative practice, there's so much potential there, and also potentially some sort of dangers and pitfalls, right?
Well, exactly, because, it's really, really potent stuff. And throughout the ages, there's been strong connections between sex and power and using sex to control people.
Yeah.
So, until we've kind of started to heal some of these relationships and some of the schisms that are both within society and within our own being, then, that's really necessary for us to start coming into a natural and healthy relationship with ourselves. But I really believe that it starts with each of us, and that through coming into contact with ourselves, we can start to heal the divides that are within us. So not being at war with our own being anymore, not being at war with our own desires, but starting to accept and acknowledge them as an integral, essential part of who we are as a human being. And that's when we start to move into a place of really genuine self-love and self-acceptance. It's like in the sort of personal development world, people bandy these terms around quite a lot, but I would say until you actually have a felt experience
how the methods
of concept,
just an idea that where's the method for developing that, and what's the embodied reality of it. Beautiful.
Starting with sex is a good place.
Well, the other thing I find with sex is motivating. So it's like people like sex, it's motivating. It's like if that's what it takes to kind of open that door for people of embodiment, and it's a fun thing. If I say to my wife, hey, do you want to go to an Aikido workshop? She's like, yeah. If I like say, hey, do you want to spend like 2 hours being held and cuddled and listened to and felt and, fuck deeply? She's like, okay, it's probably going to be more likely to come to that workshop. So, I think that's not a bad thing. It strikes me there's something even more fundamental than asking for what you want for others. It's just being able to feel in your own body, right? Like when I have a yoga class, I taught yoga class last night. And if I tell people, hey, just do whatever you want for a couple of minutes, not even involving another human, just on their own,
Yes.
And people struggle to do that. You know what I mean? I say, well, if you don't know, try 2 things and feel which is yum and which is yuck.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that's where I have to start with the people that are like, I have no idea what to do. I'm like, okay, you could twist and you could side bend. Try both and feel which one feels yum. You know, that connection to self has got to be the beginning there.
Yeah. And that also comes in the massage. You know, sometimes say to me, okay, would you like a firmer or lighter pressure? And you say, I don't know. And it's like, well, okay, well, let's try firmer.
Try both and
let's try lighter. Yeah. And which brings the most expansion in you? Which feels the most enjoyable? And actually starting to trust that the pleasure that I feel in my body is a good barometer of what do I want.
Trust that. I can trust that.
Yeah.
Self-trust, isn't it, really? You know, it's self-trust. Okay, we need to wrap up. Unfortunately, I need to jump on a train to go to Sweden. So, yeah, do you have any final message for the people out there?
A final message? Yeah. Something which I'm really, really passionate about is people coming into a place of self-touch and self-connection, because it's often really overlooked. And for many people, the only time they touch their body is either to wash it, right? Or to give themselves some kind of climax, like to take from the body. So if you're doing either of those activities, you can already add something to them just by bringing a bit more awareness in what you do. So if you're washing, actually take time to notice the part of your body that you're washing. Even if it's saying to yourself, this is my leg, this is my arm, this is my sex, these are my breasts. Name those body parts as you touch them and wash them. And same, if you're self-pleasuring, have one hand on your genitals and have the other touching other parts of your body, and actually calling in a connection between your sex and all the rest of your being. They're 2 really super simple techniques, but they already have the capacity to completely transform.
Great, that's wonderful. That emphasis on self-touch as a way of reconnecting.
Yeah.
You know, when I find in the bath, I use soap to massage, and I find it's going to just, as I wash, and I can add a little gratitude to that, like, thanking my body and actually feeling rather than doing too, you know, because
exactly.
And that's a nightly practice for me, is to have a bath and just kind of really spend that time with myself. Okay, this is beautiful. I've really enjoyed it. You're sending me on a plane full of ideas and a little frisky, I have to admit. Thinking about too many flowers. And what wonderful memories coming up for me this podcast. And people can find you at heavenoneartheros.com. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. And
anywhere else they can find you online if they want to hear more about you?
Yeah, I also run public workshops in Tantra Massage, and it's tantramassagetraining.co.uk, and they're open to individuals, couples, anybody with a sincere and genuine interest in exploring sensuality and sexuality through touch.
Just getting this up now on the site, Tantra Massage Training, yeah? Okay, well, feel free to invite me and Daria to that. So put me on your list and things. And it's been really fun. Thank you. You've been generous and fun. I've really, really enjoyed today. It's been juicy. Thank you. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to get more. If you'd like to help us build the Embodied Tribe, leave a review on iTunes or share this on your social media. If you're interested in training globally, sign up to receive the newsletter at embodiedfacilitator.com. Until next time, welcome home to the body.